Pokemon Sword and Shield steamed the clams of a lot of people due to its absence of the national decks, yet somehow it still broke assloads of records. Fast forward a few years later to the releases of Scarlet and Violet, and the national dex is still nowhere to be seen, with even worse graphical problems than before. Yet, despite all of this, the games are still breaking records, not just for Pokemon, but for Nintendo in general. So yeah, as much as we'd all personally like for Game Freak to take a little break and regroup, the fact is that leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table is just not in their DNA, so that pretty much guarantees that we're probably going to see new Pokemon games in November of 2023, if you ask me. And if you were to make a list of every potential game that they could possibly release, I think there's a really good chance that they'll end up being new Let's Go games for Gold and Silver, for better or worse, and if you give me a wee bit, I'll explain why. Alright, so if you're down that we're going to see more Pokemon games in November of 2023, then let me remind you that aside from 2020, we haven't seen a single November go by without a pair of new titles ever since the Switch launched, most likely because any game with Pokemon in the title pretty much prints money. And look, I'm not necessarily saying that I personally want new Let's Go games by any means, I'm just saying that I can't think of anything else they could possibly have ready within a year after Scarlet and Violet if they're going to release something. Sure, they could just do DLC for Scarlet and Violet, or even release a Yellow, Gold, or Platinum equivalent. Hell, they could even just make Scarlet and Violet 2 or Ultra Scarlet and Violet, but in the age of DLC, these types of sequels just don't really make sense anymore. I'm looking at you, Persona 5 Royal. How can I stay mad at you? Come here. I'm like, sure, I guess they could also do more remakes in the same vein as Shining Pearl and Crazy Diamond, but I don't know. X and Y remakes don't really sound as exciting as updating the second generation again, at least in my opinion anyway. I mean, after all, the second generation of Pokemon's one of the most popular ever, so even after all the controversy from Scarlet and Violet, not to mention the underwhelming fan reception from the first Let's Go games, I think pretty much everybody would cave for these. Personally, I didn't buy Scarlet, Violet, Sword, or Shield, not really because I'm trying to make some sort of a statement or anything, but because I just decided I'd rather keep working on my backlog of games instead of playing a Pokemon game that I felt could have easily been way better. I genuinely hope everyone who bought these games had fun with them, but I just decided, no, I don't want to spend my money on this. No big deal or anything like that, though. With Gold and Silver remakes, though, I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna pass these up, even if they were as phoned in as Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were. I mean, they already have the Kanto half of the game all done, and with the style as simplistic as this, it wouldn't be that hard to finish the Johto portion up. Plus, nobody really expects the national decks for these games anyways, so seeing as how these games would easily make hundreds of millions of dollars, I just can't imagine them not happening. I doubt they'd call them Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee too, so my bet would be that they'd probably just call them Let's Go Gold and Silver, but like, I know you might not like the idea of milking popular IPs, but if you're ever gonna make these games happen, then honestly, what better time is there to do it than 2023? Sure, Pokemon Go is not necessarily taking the world by storm anymore these days, but with around 80 million people actively playing it, it's far from dead like a lot of people will have you believe. Besides, you don't even have to know what Pokemon Go is to enjoy a Let's Go game. The only real benefit to connecting the two games together is to get like one extra Pokemon. Big friggin' whoop. And like, don't get me wrong, I think it's really important that Pokemon games get spruced up the next time around, but honestly, I kinda don't really mind side games and remakes being more simplistic and laid back, or lazy if you want to be a dick about it. Because, I mean, it's not like they're trying to pretend to be something they're not, you know? Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are all very upfront about being simplistic remakes, I don't know why some people lose a lot of sleep over the lackluster visuals for these ones. If you're gonna tout the mainline games as being a true 3D home console Pokemon experience, though, then I'm gonna be a hell of a lot more critical about it. But for something like Let's Go Gold and Silver, I think this kind of graphical style is still acceptable for some mindless fun. I mean, sure, it'd be a hell of a lot nicer if even the Let's Go games or other remakes looked amazing, but not releasing Pokemon games literally leaves hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, which basically means it costs hundreds of millions of dollars for them not to release it. At least that's how they look at it anyway, so personally, I'm kinda okay with the filler games being more simplistic so long as they're not trying to pretend to be groundbreaking if it means that the real mainline games have more time to try a little harder. Problem with that, though, is that we still get half-ass mainline games even with all these spin-offs on the side, so they should probably just hire more people, because even though records are being broken, I'd still argue that Pokemon games would be even more successful if the mainline games weren't so divisive. As for the filler remakes and things of that nature, though, I think they're fine the way they are, and not only that, but I think there's a good chance that the powers of the Pokemon Company realize this as well, so my money's on Let's Go Gold and Silver being the next Pokemon games for the Switch, and that they'll be out in November of 2023. I mean, I wouldn't bet more than like $10, but my money's still on this happening, and not to brag since I am wrong about things sometimes, but I did totally call that the first Pokemon games on the Switch would be remakes of the Kanto region. I didn't know they'd be as lazy as they were, but I still did call Gen 1 remakes nonetheless. And you know what? Now I'm calling Gen 2 remakes for November of 2023. Anyway, that's all for today, but if you got a kick out of my incoherent rambling and disturbing imagery, though, then you should check out this video I made ranking every character from Persona 5 Royal from good to evil, but if you'll excuse me, though, I gotta go pick my dad up from soccer practice. Later!